Alright, we're going to start with some exponent review. Are doing our worksheet here on our different properties of exponents. Want to remind you of a few things as we're doing our video. Feel free to pause as necessary. Feel free to rewind if you need to, or to watch this video as many times as you need to for examples and reminders on how to do these. We're going to start with multiplying exponents. And if you'll remember our rule for multiplying exponents, one, that we have to have the same base to be able to do that, and also that what we do is we keep the base and we add our exponents. Now you should have your notes for these still. Feel free to use your notes as you're going through these. Use the video. What you can't do is use your neighbor. So keep that in mind as you're doing this. We're going to start with multiplying here. I'm going to remember that we have to have the same base to be able to do anything. We're going to zoom in here so we can see what we're doing. We're going to start off here with our coefficients. As our coefficients can only affect other coefficients. We're multiplying here, so we're actually just going to multiply the coefficient. So 2 times 2 is going to give us 4. Now let's actually switch to a pen there instead of our highlighter. There we go. 4. Then we're going to go to our next visible base, which in this case is a u. We have the same base, so what we can do is use our multiplication exponent rules. Same base, we keep the base and we add the exponents. So we have u, we're going to come down here, then we're going to look at our exponents. 4 plus negative 2 gives me positive 2. Then I'm going to look at v. I have no other v's, so there's nothing to affect it. It's going to stay the same. Just bring it down. And that's a real simple one, but whether it's as simple as this or it's got a lot more terms or multiplying more times, the process is still the same. Coefficients first, then keep the bases together. Let's do another one that at least looks a little bit different. Slide down here to number 7. So we're still going to follow that same process. We're going to look at coefficients first. We're going to have negative 3 times negative 3. That's going to give me positive 9. Let me use those so I can cross them out. I'm going to go to my next base, which is my x. So as I'm doing this here, I'm going to write my x base down because I'm going to keep it, and then I'm going to add negative 2 and positive 2. Now, negative 2 plus positive 2 gives me 0. So now I have x to the 0 power. And if you'll remember, if you don't remember, it's still true, we said anything to the 0 power is going to give us 1. That also means that we can just cross that out. We don't have it anymore. We're going to take care of rewriting that in just a minute, and that'll help us out. So get rid of those x's. Now I've used those. I'm going to go to my next term, which is the only one I have left, which is going to be y. There's nothing to change yet, so I'm going to bring it down just like it is, y to the negative 3rd. Now, a while back I gave you guys a checklist, things to check for as you thought you were finished with exponents. Things like look for ones that you don't need. Look for 0 exponents. Look for fractions that can be simplified. Look for negative exponents. And one of the things we have right here is one of those negative exponents. If you will remember, negative exponents tell me it's on the wrong side of a fraction bar. Now if that means it's on the top, it means it needs to be on the bottom. If it's on the bottom, it needs to be on the top. These, our answers are on top by default. So that means that y to the negative 3rd needs to be on the bottom. So I'm going to start by rewriting this. Nothing changes my 9. I don't need the x anymore because it was to the 0 power. It's gone. I need that fraction bar. So what that negative exponent tells me, that needs to move to the bottom. Now, it moves the whole thing, not just the exponent. It moves the base too. So what we're going to do is move that whole thing to the bottom. Y. But now it's to the positive 3rd, not to the negative 3rd. that fraction bar erases all negative exponents anytime you cross it. So you just got to remember, anytime you cross that, those negatives on the exponents go away. Something a lot of you still try to do is try to take these coefficients when they're negative and move them. Don't do that. Negative coefficients stay where they are unless they have a negative exponent to go with it. Negative exponents are the only things that move things from top to bottom. I'm going to look at one other one while I'm here. It's not any different. I'm not going to do the whole thing, but I'm going to point out something to you here. This one, if you look, you've got 3 sets of numbers. I want you to see you've got that multiplication sign twice there. So it means you have to multiply it twice, or you can kind of do it all together. You got to remember you've got essentially everything in its own set of parentheses there. And when you go to solve this, you're going to keep all your coefficients together. So it'll be 3 times negative 3 times 3. You'll have m to the third and m to the 0 power, but if you also remember anything to the 0 power, we can go ahead and cross that out. And then n's are going to stay together all the way across. Same basic thing we did on the other one. There's just 3 sets of numbers now instead of 2, but you guys should be able to handle that. So let's slide on down the page a little bit here. And let's look at power to a power. Now, power to a power rules, and it says this on the notes you have on that little foldable I gave you that says exponents on it. Now what's going to happen, power to a power, that 3 is going to go to everything. And there's 3 potential bases in that set of parentheses there. And it's going to go to all of them. Now, I'm going to go ahead and write this out like I was multiplying it. Negative 3 to the first power, because you remember we got our hidden ninja up there, our army of 1 above a base if it's not written. So we got 3 to the 1 times 3. We got m to a 0 is already there times 3 that we're multiplying now. And n to the third that's already there times third again. Now, if you remembered ahead of time, you got m to the 0, we can cross that out and save ourselves some work. Which means we can cross that one out down there too. But since I've already got it there, I'm going to go ahead and follow through on what I've got. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to take and do those multiplications we have up top there. So I've got negative 3 to the third power, if I can get everything to work here, to the third power. We got m to the 0 power. Now I'm not going to bother to write it this time, because now I know 0 times 3 is 0. I'm going to have m to the 0 power. I didn't have to write this step right here. If you caught it right there and crossed it out, then it's gone and saves you some work. And now I have n to the 9th power. So going through my checklist, do I have ones I don't need? No. Do I have 0 exponents? No. Fractions that I can simplify? No. Do I have number bases that will simplify? I've got one of those, but I don't have to worry about any negative exponents. Something you guys are wanting to do a bunch is if I have a negative number out front, you're wanting to move that to the bottom. Remember, negative coefficients don't move. Negative exponents move things. So only if these little numbers up top are negatives, the only time you move it. Other thing I want to remind you is please make sure that an exponent's written as a little number up top. Some of you are writing it almost like that would be 33 there. So please be careful of that. What we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and simplify negative 3 to the third power. So it's going to be negative 3 times negative 3 gives me positive 9. Positive 9 times that other negative 3 gives me negative 27. Nothing to change that n to the 9th. So that's going to be my answer. Okay. So before I move on to another one, just draw your attention to this guy down here, number 15. we've said before, if we got anything to the 0 power, it's going to make it 1, or it would disappear. On this one, we also said things can't completely disappear. So this guy can't completely disappear. A lot of you are wanting to cross that out and you go, I don't know what to do, there's nothing there. But if you remember, the zero's on that set of parentheses there. The whole set of parentheses is raised to the 0 power. When we said anything to the 0 power is 1. So keep that in mind as you're solving that. We're going to slide over here to number 14. Now, number 14, still the same thing, power to a power. That negative 4 goes to everything. So we're going to rewrite that. We've got base of 4 already to the first power, because you remember we got our hidden ninja up there, our army of 1. So the 1's already there, and we're going to multiply it by 4. We've got our x to the 4th power already there, times the 4th power again. Y to the negative 2 already there, times the 4th power. Now what we're going to do is we're actually going to do those multiplications there. So we're going to have 4 to the 4th power. X to the 4 times 4 is going to be 16. And y to the negative 2 times 4 is going to be negative 8. Now while I'm here, I'm going to go ahead and take care of my number base. Anytime I have a number base, I need to go ahead and punch that in the calculator. You can do it in your head, great. If you can't, don't miss easy math because you don't want to take out a calculator. So we're going to take 4 to the 4th power. It's 4 times 4 gives me 16. Times 4 again gives me 64. Times 4 again gives me 256. So I've got 256. X to the 16th, y to the negative 8th. And I left that the same color there because it's essentially the same step. All I did was change that. I could even do this step. Didn't have to write down this one if I didn't want to. I could go ahead and punch that in my calculator. Now, I go through my checklist. Do I have any 1s I don't need? No. Do I have any 0 exponents? No. Fractions to simplify? No. Number bases left, already did that, so no. Last but not least is negative exponents. So I have a negative exponent here. If you'll remember, negative exponent tells you you're on the wrong side of the fraction bar. So since all our answers are on top by default, that means that y to the negative 8 needs to move to the bottom. So we're going to copy down the rest of that because it's not going to change. So 256 x to the 16th is going to be on top, and y to the 8th on the bottom. And remember, it's going to be positive 8, not negative 8 anymore, because anytime we cross that fraction bar, it erases that negative. Alright, I think that's got us on power to a power. Let's jump over to our next one, dividing. So let's start with number 21 here. Just because we're dividing doesn't mean our order changes any. We're still going to look at our coefficients first. But because we're dividing, we have one more thing to look at. Not just can we divide them, because multiplying we can always multiply, but dividing, it doesn't always divide evenly. So we look, does 3 divide by 4 evenly? And the answer is no. So the next thing we have to check, and that's one more thing we've got to check with division, is does that fraction simplify? And if you're not good at simplifying fractions, that's okay. Your calculator will help you. Just as a reminder, you go over to your math key, and you're looking for fraction, and then you'd hit enter twice. And that'll simplify any of your fractions you have. So in this one, if you do that, it's still going to spit out 3/4. So that means 3/4, because we have no negative exponents on any of them, means they're going to stay exactly where they are. So I'm going to write 3 over 4. Exactly like it is. Now, I'm going to get to my next one, next set of bases, which is my x's here. Now, division property of exponents tells me that if I have the same base, to divide, I subtract the exponents. So I've got x to the 4th minus x to the 0. So that's 4 minus 0 is 4. Our answers go on top by default. So x to the 4th power by default on top. Now, I go to my last base, which is my y there. I've got y to the negative 4th, but I have no y on top. So there's nothing to change that y to the negative 4th. So I'm going to bring it down just like it is. Let's change color on that so we can see what's going on. Y to the negative 4th. Now, we still have to go through that checklist. Any ones we don't need? No. Any 0 exponents? No. Any fractions that simplify? Well, we've got a fraction, but we already checked to see if it simplifies, so we're good on that. Do we have any number bases with an exponent? No on that. Do we have any negative exponents? And we do still have that negative exponent there. So what we're going to do is we're going to move that. Now, our other three pieces, the 3, the x to the 4th, and the 4, are all going to stay exactly where they are. So none of that's going to move. So I'm going to rewrite it just like it is. Because none of that moved. But this y to the negative 4th tells me, well, specifically that negative 4 exponent tells me it's on the wrong side of the fraction bar. Because anytime we have a negative exponent, it tells me I'm on the wrong side of the fraction bar. So what I'm going to do, since it's on the bottom, I'm going to move it to the top. And I now have to the positive 4th, because anytime we cross that fraction bar, that tells me, or excuse me, it erases that negative exponent, or rather the negative off of the exponent, not the whole exponent. So let's do one more. And I'm choosing number 26 here because it's one just like one that messes a lot of you up. And the first thing that messes a lot of you up is these coefficients. For some reason, if I were to ask you what's 2 divided by negative 4, a lot of you is going to tell me negative 2. And that's wrong. Again, if you're bad at simplifying fractions, that's not a character flaw, something you need to be aware of and know that you need to overcome it. One of the things you can do that is to use your calculator when you have it. So do 2 over negative 4 in your calculator, and you're going to get that you have the fraction negative 1/2. Now, it doesn't matter if the negative is out front or if it's on top or if it's on the bottom. They're all the same thing. I'm going to stay consistent. I'm going to move all this stuff to the bottom. So negative 1/2. Now, if you don't leave a good, clear separation there, I'm going to think that's all one fraction bar. So if you don't think you can leave a good, clear separation there, put it on top or on the bottom, and it doesn't matter. It's the same thing. But make sure it's clear than the negative there. In case y'all are wondering, that squeak is my recliner. Now, that gets rid of those. They're simplified and gone now. Now I'm going to go to my next base, which is an A. So now I'm going to subtract those exponents because I'm dividing. And here's the other thing that messes you guys up. This is just all your mistakes in one problem, really. You do 4 minus negative 3. And what that's going to look like, I'm going to write it up here. It's going to look like a to the 4 minus negative 3. And if I write it like that, a lot of you go, oh, I'm subtracting a negative. That's going to be adding, so it's going to be like 4 plus 3. If you don't have that in your head good, take out your calculator. Don't miss the easy math because you won't pay attention, or because you want to do it right, or because you want to be able to do it in your head, or whatever. Whatever the reason is, don't miss the easy math. So I've got a. 4 minus negative 3 is going to be a to the 7th. Answers by default go on top, a to the 7th. Then I've got my leftovers. There's my b. Nothing to change my b, so it's going to stay where it is. I go through my check. Do I have any ones I don't need? Well, actually I do. I don't need that one right there. So as I write this as my final answer, I'm actually going to write negative a to the 7th b squared over 2. And like I said, pardon my cough, if you can't put it beside the fraction bar and make it very clear that it's a negative and not just a part of the fraction bar, put it on top or the bottom. It doesn't matter. So I got rid of my extra 1. I don't have any 0 exponents. I don't have any number bases with an exponent. I don't have any fractions to simplify. And I don't have any negative exponents. So I've gone through the whole checklist, and I'm good to go on that one. Now, you've got one more worksheet. Looks like this guy right here. It's the same thing, same set of properties, everything. The only thing this one has that your other worksheet doesn't is, if you will look here when it says express using positive exponents. Some of these have number bases. Some of these guys up here have number bases. It's wanting you to leave the number base. Okay? I want to be very clear. Leave the number base. So I'm going to give you an example on this one. If you look at number 1 up there, we're multiplying. So what we're going to do is we're going to keep our base and add our exponents. So our base we kept is going to be 5. Add our exponents to the 12th power. Alright? Do not punch 5 to the 12th power into your calculator. I assure you it's a large number. I don't want you to do that. I know I told you most of the time you're going to do that. But I'm telling you to leave the number base. Okay? If there are classmates around you that are not doing that, shame on them because they didn't watch the video. You get down here, express using positive exponents. What they're wanting you to do is just set that up and get rid of the negative exponent. So this, by default, is on top. So that means I need to move the whole thing to the bottom. So I'm going to move it. So now was 6 to the negative 3rd. I'm going to zoom in so I've got more room. So now it's going to be 6 to the positive 3rd on the bottom. Problem is, this right here is against dress code. I'm not allowed to have a bare top at school. So I got to put something on. I get the 1. I would like for you to leave it just like this. Okay? On this sheet only. On this sheet only. Don't simplify those number bases. Where I do want you to simplify the number bases is here where it says simplify. Okay? Do simplify number bases. And that's in this section. Okay? I believe that's the only section that applies. Because all the rest of them you're going to do what you're supposed to. But that section right here, I do want you to simplify the number base. In these sections, oops, sorry about that. I hope I didn't make anybody motion sick. These sections right here do not simplify number bases. Okay? Do not, very big caps, underline. Simplify number bases. So you've got different sets of instructions there. You need to pay attention. I will try to draw attention to this in the email I send you too, but I know some of you don't read. So I'm hoping that that is clear enough what to do there. I will count it wrong if you simplify the number bases where you're not supposed to. Alright? Good luck with that, guys. Have fun, and I'll see you again soon.